Now we get to talk about the Akashic journey from ancestral healing to cosmic expansion. Even the title is like, what is that?
Yeah, here for it.
Yes. So let's start with your journey. How did you get into this? And yeah, how did you get into this?
My mother and grandmother used or practiced a form of past life healing, Akashic healing, called spiritual response therapy. And they trained with the gentleman who channeled that information. His name was Robert E. Detzler. And that is a book of charts that you use a pendulum with to identify and clear past life trauma and the subconscious beliefs that may be remaining as a result of that trauma. So I was exposed to this work pretty young, the idea of past lives, of the mind-body-spirit connection, angels, and really the understanding that the universe is so big and so vast that we cannot, with our human minds, understand it. And also that happiness is available to us all and abundance is available to us all. And that got deeply rooted in me at a very young age. So they were doing this work with me. That's where I got introduced to it and was always interested in spirituality and never thought I would do it as a profession until my life became unsustainable in the way I had been living it, which I think a lot of people can relate to. And all of a sudden I remembered, oh my gosh, I love talking about spirituality. I've been doing this forever. I know I have these gifts. Let's see what I can do as a professional in this space because I've actually been preparing for this for a very, very, very long time. So it's in my lineage on my maternal side, although I know on my paternal side, there's different healers along the way too. And it was always a part in my household growing up. We didn't really talk about it super openly because I was raised in a very small town in Michigan. But the Hay House authors always came through, Louise Hay and Abraham Hicks and Wayne Dyer. They were always around. And
in your house?
In my house, not the actual, their work, not the actual authors, just the essence of the authors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where it all came from to create who I am and what I do today.
Wow. I can only imagine the conversations you, your mom, and your grandmother have had around these topics.
Pretty interesting. We've had some good ones over the years, that's for sure. And they just keep getting better and better. And now my grandmother is in spirit. And, my mother is now one of my, avid students. She loves hearing how I've taken what I was raised with and turned it into my own thing, combining it with my work as a Reiki master, with my passion for all of these other topics that were not a part of SRT growing up. And so the conversations just keep happening in really exciting ways.
Yeah. So how does SRT work? Or how is that what you practice right now? Is that what you call it? Or is it like a version of that?
It's a version of that. That is the basis of everything I do. And sometimes the charts do still come up in my sessions, but doing that work for so long opened up my own psychic channels. And now I don't need the charts as often. So that's been something really beautiful that I've seen for myself. But the charts themselves, there are 31 charts, and the first 10 we can really understand with our conscious minds. After that, we just go, okay, angels, I know you're doing some pretty heavy lifting right now. I don't really understand what this is, and I don't need to, but I trust you to take care of this work. But at the core of it, you would say you want to go into the Akashic Records because you've been feeling some, patterns around your bosses, right? Like you always seem to have really challenging employers who don't make you feel respected. And it seems to be coming up over and over again. So you go, let me go into my past lives and see if something's happened that's allowing me to create this frequency that is attracting these people into my lives, and help me learn the lessons that I can learn so that I don't have to experience this anymore. And so you would use the pendulum to go into the records, and you would find out, okay, there's a past life that came up and I was a mother, and turns out my sister in this life was my daughter in that lifetime, and we experienced some kind of conflict. And from that experience, I am feeling low self-esteem, toxic shame, and frustration. And so we clear those away, and then we activate true aspects of the nature that are hiding below that, which are self-love, faith, joy, positivity, prosperity, and the healing is done instantly. And then you just do that as many times as you need to. Now, that doesn't mean that you feel a shift in your external world immediately, because as we know, there's a lot of layers to dig through the subconscious mind. But people sometimes have immediate changes and sometimes not. But it's the most effective way that I have found of doing this, what's called Akashic healing, which is working in this space where all of our lives have existed and everything that's ever been thought has existed, and we all have access to it. And when we're just open to it and we're willing, then we can dig out some of these deep programming, which will make it easier to believe the affirmations. It becomes easier to take the positive steps, to make the changes in our lifestyle that we want to make, which then we know will change our lives in the external world.
Whoa. I feel like you are diving into a universe that I have absolutely zero knowledge. I mean, I've heard of these things before, and I've done a guided Akashic meditation. One time I did a past life regression meditation. I saw some things that maybe I made it up, maybe it's true, who knows, right? But I've never actually spoken with anybody who can explain, like, I feel like a puppy that's just like,
which is a beautiful place to be when you are being introduced to these kinds of concepts, in whatever realm they may be, right? If we could all meet new areas of knowledge as a wide-eyed puppy, right? Like, we'd all be a lot better off. And how I begin to explain, how we know past lives exist, right? And we know that they are talked about in the mystical aspects of all major world religions, right? So it's nothing new. And that often people who have near-death experiences or people who are master meditators will be able to access these spaces. We see the same things, the same stories happening over and over again. And we can see this in evidence of when you meet someone and you just really connect, like you are just vibing so hard with them, and even if you don't believe in past lives at this point, most people will go, I bet we have a past life together, right? Because it's a different kind of connection than you have with anybody else or other people. And that is always an indication that there is something there. There is a history there. Absolutely. Or if you go to visit a place and you go, I feel like I've been here before, but you've never been there before. Or I'm just so called to Ireland, Africa, Sweden. I don't know what it is. I've just always wanted to go to Belgium and I don't know why. Like, that is also, you will undoubtedly find a past life experience there. Whatever you love to do and sparks your soul, you absolutely have past life experiences there. And also on the other side, if you have, but take sibling relationships again, if you just always are butting up with your sibling or your parent or an uncle or an aunt or whoever it is, where you just can't ever quite get on the same page, but you just love them, definitely some past life stuff there that we can also look at. And when we combine this information with what we know about mindset and subconscious beliefs, it all of a sudden brings all these ties together on why it can be so challenging to guide our minds, to take the actions we want to take. And when we open up to the possibility that this lifetime is not all there is, it surrenders the fear of death, which is the thing that holds most of us back, right? Thinking that we're running out of time. If I don't do this now, I'm never going to get a chance, right? And we have this fearful thing hanging over our heads, so we can't really live. And then when we go into the Akashic Records, we can learn about what we are called to do in this lifetime, what makes us happy. So many people don't even know what makes them happy. They don't know what brings them joy, right? And when we go into our past lives, we go, oh my gosh, look, I've loved music in so many lifetimes. It's been so important to me. Or travel in it and learning languages and experiencing new cultures has always been important to me. Or I've always loved numbers. I've been a mathematician in so many lifetimes. And that explains why I've been embarrassed to open up to that, but I just love it, right? And also understanding why we may have deeply embedded feelings of abandonment, that people are going to leave us, of poverty mindset, right? Of feeling lesser than or unworthy. And we've had so many past lives, we can't even count them. And it's a lifelong process once you open this door. I'm still doing past life healing, and I've been working in the Akashic Records for over 30 years now by myself and with my family. And it's always interesting and exciting. And I always say I can't make up the things that come through. And it doesn't matter if it's a lifetime where someone was a horse, or someone, was a princess or a beggar or an inventor. There's always a message there that resonates with someone in this lifetime. So it's a party trick, and it's fun and exciting. But the work that I do, there's always something really juicy that's going to help my clients move forward in their lives.
Woo! Wow. This is blowing my mind right now. Wow. I have a question. Give me a second. I'll remember it. Not really a question, but a comment. I think, at least for me, looking back, I'm a bit skeptical. I'm going to be honest. Like, I want to believe that it's true, but I'm a bit skeptical about looking back into the past and being able to access it, even though part of me strongly believes, like, I was reading a little bit into the Tibetan Book of the Dead and just like learning about how we come back, and this, also like in the Buddhist religion and the Hindu religion, that we come back until we complete our whatever we're supposed to learn, until, in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, it's like when we can recognize ourselves in the light or something like that. And we keep coming back until we can finally recognize ourselves, and then, we don't come back here. That's easy for me to believe. And if that is true, that means that there are previous cycles. And yet it's like the disconnect between, okay, yes, I believe that's true, but I don't believe that that's true. You know what I mean? And it's really the same thing, just one is looking forward and saying, yes, I believe we reincarnate. And the other is looking back and saying, I can access those past reincarnations. So how does that work? Is that purely psychic? Is that something that you train? Can anybody connect to it?
I find it so interesting that it's easy for you to comprehend, like, oh, I may have future lives, but thinking about past lives, that feels closed off to me. I find that very interesting. I've never had anyone explain that before, but it's beautiful, it's beautiful. And also that you are perhaps more open than you give yourself credit for. And that absolutely we continue to reincarnate until we learn the lessons. And the ultimate lessons are unity consciousness, oneness. I am divine. Everything is a reflection of me. Everything is spiritual, right? And I am a sacred being of source energy, the universe, God, Sophia, whatever you want to call it. And most of us have resistance to that because it's scary to think about how powerful we actually are, right? And we have all these messages that keep us down, right? That keep us down. And so what I would offer about that is that, yes, everyone can access this. This is not something that is a few people are gatekeeping. And if anybody tells you any differently, like turn the other way and close your phone and talk to someone else, because it's really a matter of being open, being willing. You can train for it, but what I've found is that when I engage in what I call multidimensional healing with people, I'm doing past life healing with them. We're doing energy balancing. We're connecting them to their guides, that little by little, their own psychic abilities naturally open up. And as we talk about how to trust what I call downloads or intuitive hits, the little things that drop into you, as you learn how to trust them in your body, knowing what your specific intuitive gifts are, it becomes easier. At this point, it's very easy for me to access it. I don't need to go into a trance. I don't need to do anything special. I can just be walking down the street and get an intuitive hit for myself. And other people just access it differently, right? And so there are people who teach you specifically how to do it. For me, I'm like, if you just continue to do the clearing, and if you have an intention, spirit will show you the way. We know that's how intention works. If you have a clear goal, everything's just energy. And if you have a goal of accessing the Akashic Records, then the books, the healers, the YouTube videos will drop down in front of you to help that be revealed to you. And at the beginning, it can be helpful to go see a professional, someone who can really guide you through this. But ultimately, and where I truly feel like we are headed as a species, is that at some point, everyone will be living in this space and able to access it all the time. And that it is fun. It is fun and it's interesting. I say my background is as a performer, like I'm a storyteller. That's what I love so much about it. And it's weird at first. Every new entrepreneur I see who's working in this field is learning to trust themselves. And it is strange because you don't have anything tangible to show people from it, right? Even with the pendulum work, I at least have a pendulum that I'm using. But what happens is that time after time, I witness people, whether I'm working online with them or in the same physical space, they have physical reactions to what comes up. And I will be doubting myself, like, oh, am I really going to say this? Like, oh my gosh, I'm really going to say they, had this pet lizard that they loved in this lifetime. It's not going to mean anything to them. And every single time they'll go, oh my gosh, I had a lizard when I was a kid and I loved it so much. I've been thinking about getting another one. And you go, well, you should get another lizard. Clearly, I guess that's the message that's coming through, or whatever it may be. And so it's tricky at first, and it's a muscle, right? It's a muscle you have to work. And there's different exercises you can do, and you can kind of challenge yourself if you want to, but that if you have the intention, you can absolutely 100% learn how to do this work for yourself.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact topic, but I know I was recently speaking with my husband about, something related to infrared or some special technology that allows you to see things that we can't see with our naked eye. And I was telling him, I was like, I love seeing things like this because it just goes to show how much we don't know and how much we rely on what we see and what we can touch and what we can label that, okay, this is real because it's here, because I'm looking at it, because I can touch it and I can tell you that it's real. But there may be something right here, right now, that we can't see it, I can't touch it, I can't smell it, but it's there. And because we're not able to identify with it in this dimension, this version of ourselves, it's not real. But it's still there.
Yeah. Right. And when I'm working with people who are completely new to this work, the first thing I'll say is, do you believe that your eyes see everything that's around you? And the answer is always no, because we know for a fact that our eyes do not observe everything around us. We know for a fact that dogs, cats, and other animals hear things that we don't hear. So how can we completely invest ourselves in just because I can see it, taste it, hold it, touch it, hear it, that it's real, right? Because we also know that, this is actually moving energy. This is vibrating energy, right? And it's vibrating at a very dense frequency. That's why it feels so dense. It feels so solid. But there's so much surrounding us that people from the beginning of time have been telling us to pay attention to, that just because we can't see it or hear it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And just being willing to go, okay, cool. Like, I don't know what that means, but I believe that. And as soon as we're open to that, new magic starts coming in. New synchronicities start coming in, right? And when we spend time outside, we just feel a little more lightness. We just feel a little more sparkle as we move through our daily life. Because if we are open to things existing that we can't see, hear, taste, touch, right? That means that, yeah, there could be angels around us all of the time, loving us no matter what. There could be a house elf that's hiding your keys, and that's why they're never where you leave them, right? There could be an ancestor who helped you, spin your wheel so that you missed an accident, right? It opens us up to infinite possibilities, which is the frequency of master manifestors. And manifestation is a real, colonized word that, it's like, people say it all the time. But it's really about joyful and deliberate creation. And when we can believe that what we want exists in a frequency, that if we are trusting our emotions enough, right, and letting our emotions guide us, then we can become this magnet for all of the divine experiences that are in our lives, which again comes down to focusing on love and not fear. And that's a lot in, one statement there, but that's really it. And it really starts with, I believe that I don't see everything, or I don't know anything. Maybe the multiverse is real. Maybe parallel lives are real. I don't really know, but I'm open to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they tell you in plant medicine ceremonies, the intention is so important because what you're thinking about in that moment, you will experience. So make sure that you are focusing on love. Don't focus on the things you don't want to see, because you will manifest whatever's in your heart and your mind at the time.
Because your brain doesn't know the difference. Your brain doesn't know the difference. You're like, I don't want to think about that, brain. And your brain's like, oh, you're thinking about it. Okay, great. Mm-hmm. Let's make that happen. Let's attract that. Right? Exactly. And that's a beautiful example. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So how do we get all of this beautiful magic into a retreat setting? Where do retreats come in?
I'm called to very specific places in the world to hold my retreats. Historical places and high frequency sacred spaces. It's important to me as I'm doing retreats that the money is being invested in the community to honor the stewards of the land that I'm called to. And it is important when we're talking about spirituality to get people out of their everyday, because if the everyday will hold you back, and we need these times. Throughout history, we had these opportunities to do vision quests, to do pilgrimages, right? And so this is our space to be in communion with the land and with other like-minded souls. And so my retreats always involve several different modalities, workshops from myself, and perhaps other guest facilitators, always other guest facilitators, whether I'm co-hosting with someone or bringing in people from the area. And it is always an opportunity to experience magic, experience spiritual community, and to remember our gifts and to remember our medicine so that we can go home and share that light with the world. And we do that by nourishing ourselves through community, through feeling pampered, through nourishing food, through new cultures, through good music, through all of these different pleasurable experiences of being a human, along with some of this deeper spiritual work. And I have found them to be absolutely and utterly transformative. Just transformative. If someone had told me 5 years ago that someone's entire life could change in a week on a spiritual retreat, I would have been like, please, come on, no way. And now I watch it happen in real time. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to do this, that I'm called and capable of holding space and being a leader in those experiences. They are absolutely profound and a lot of fun. We hold space for both.
That sounds fun. And I love that you hold them in historical places or just places with high frequency. The first thing I thought about was, for the historical places, I'm sure that for some people, memories start coming back, especially if it's an old place.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. In the first retreat that I offered in Sedona, I had a client who had she knew her ancestral lineage was from Sedona, from the area. And she had these really powerful, I don't know if they were past life memories or ancestral memories. I don't recall at this point, but as soon as she got there, she was like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. And my last retreat was in Ireland, and so many people have Irish lineage. So many people are called to it because they're just fascinated by it. So many of us have past lives there. And there were several people on that trip. Things really bubbled up for them, especially when we were in Dublin, a specific street corner. One attendee just stopped and was like, oh my, I've been here before. I just know that I've been here before. That's crazy. What do I do with it? And so we just kind of talked about it, and it was really fun. But we are deliberately called to these very activating places. And really anything can happen.
Yeah. I can't even. So I went on your website and I saw that Ireland trip that you had, and I don't know what you would call, I wouldn't call it freaked out, because freaked out sounds negative, but I wigged out, or I was like, oh my God, like having one of those moments. I was like, honey, she had a retreat in Ireland and it was a magical thing. I was freaking out in a very good way. And yeah, I feel like, oh, you have to do that again because I need to go.
Okay.
I'm all about everything that was on that page. I was just looking at it and my eyes were sparkling. So yeah, I'm sure that lots of people, you attract different groups to the different locations that you host these retreats. Do you notice anything unifying or distinct about like the groups of people that go to the different places? Like, do they have any similarities?
They certainly do. I may have to think about it a little bit to touch on, to really speak on more articulately. But, last year we did retreats in a plant medicine retreat in Mexico. And then we did another one in Sedona and then one in Ireland. And it was really interesting to see who was called to the different retreats. And they were all very different groups of people. The Mexico retreat attracted a lot of people I've been working with for a really long time, which I noticed, people who were really called to work with the medicine, which I did not facilitate. I'm not qualified to do that. And then in Sedona, it was that was a little more, not rustic, but it was like a little more down home in a way, which is really what we wanted. And then Ireland, it was people who were really specifically called to working with the Fae, with fairies, who were just fascinated, who wanted to know more about their Celtic lineages and past lives. And so there was a real sense of magic in that particular group, but there was magic in all the groups. And there is definitely a difference. And it's interesting to note, but I don't know if I can put other words to it, but it's for sure there. Yeah.
Okay. Can you share a transformational experience that you witnessed with someone who had, I guess, experienced their past life?
A specific past life channel that came through that was really transformational for someone? Really good question. Well, I'm called to actually share one about myself that came through. I had realized that I was having a lot of anxiety when I would cross roads with my husband. We live in Los Angeles. He's from New York. He's like, doesn't care about crosswalks. Like, he will just jaywalk, because he's from New York. And I realized I was like, really, my heart would start beating really fast. And I know that sometimes I'm a rule follower, but I can tell at this point when something goes a little bit deeper. And so I was called into the Akashic Records, and I saw my most recent past life where I knew I had been a dancer and had experienced a lot of hardship. And what I saw was that I had been hit by a car in that lifetime and sustained injuries that never really got healed and, proved catapulted into additional challenges in that lifetime. So it wasn't even it was the actual experience, but it was everything that came from the experience. And so when I went in and I allowed my soul to receive whatever healing that she needed at that time, and I was able to communicate it to my loving and understanding soulmate partner, now I find I don't have that anxiety anymore. Now I'm not, I'm very safe when I cross the streets and I'm not jaywalking, here and there. But that I feel more calm in my body when I'm moving through busy streets. And so that was just one small example. I've had other clients. I had another client who was terrified of flying. And she wanted to get to a place where she was okay with it because she wanted to go visit her son and her new baby grandbaby in a different state. And there were a few different lifetimes that came up around, falling from different heights, thinking she was being carried and then she wasn't carried. So they didn't actually have to do with planes, but they had to do with feeling safe, right, in a piece of machinery. And as we cleared it away, and then also talked about how to look at the layout of the airport, how to know how to get an Uber, like all the logistical stuff as well. Now she can't believe how much she loves to fly. She just loves to fly. And it's really remarkable. I've had other people with health issues that have been healed. I'm always very clear. I'm not a licensed medical professional. If people come to me and they want to look at health challenges, they have to be under the care of a licensed medical professional. But working in this Akashic healing along with your medical doctors is really, really, really powerful. I have a lot of people who come to me with different allergies. Their allergies get eased. I've had people come to me with digestive issues that have been solved or resolved themselves. Headaches have gone away. People with very serious migraines, they don't get them anymore. And it's just magnificent. It's really incredible what can happen and what continues to happen. And that you're always pushing out. There's always more. There's always more that you can do and explore and heal and release. Because as soon as we don't have anything to learn on this planet or any other way that we can expand, then, that's when our lives transition. That's when we move on to whatever is next. But as long as we're here, there's more to learn and deeper excavation to explore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are all great transformational stories. So many.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And have people remembered themselves in these other lives?
What a lot of times will happen is if I'm getting something, more often than not, it's people just have sensations in their body, or people start to cry and they go, why am I crying? Like, why am I crying hearing this story? Because there is some kind of memory there. If people are activated intuitives themselves, it will kind of be more of a co-creation. Like, I'll say something and they'll say something because they see this, and I'll go, yes, I see that too. And then they'll say, I also see this. And I say, yes, so do I. So there are people who perhaps have been on this journey a little bit longer who will be seeing what I'm seeing at the same time, 100%.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's always fun when that happens.
So you mentioned working with other facilitators, co-hosting, or people who you bring on board. What other types of people do you like to have at your retreats?
I love working with people who do offer ceremony, who do offer, who have a very strong connection to the plant realm and the indigenous practices, working with these plants, whether that's cacao or psilocybin. I really enjoy collaborating with people who have a lot of experience with sound healing or yoga, any kind of physical practice. That's something I would like to become more experienced in, so I can offer that as well. But for now, that's been really beautiful. And also, I've collaborated with people who did more mindset work. So who were trained to do NLP and were able to really coach people in that way. That's been a really wonderful collaboration as well for me.
Yeah. What's NLP?
Neuro-linguistic programming. Mm-hmm. So it's subconscious reprogramming, working with a real study of the brain and how it works. And I do it from a spiritual aspect, but it can be very helpful to have someone who has the very specific exercises, the knowledge, who can get even more, help you focus even more in that way. It complements what I do very, very, very well.
Is that connected to the light language that you share?
No, I guess, in a sense, everything feeds into every other thing, right? But I think of NLP as a little more straightforward, right? There's studies, it's science, it's a little more tangible than the realms that I work in. And the light language that I channel, light language is said to be the soul's expression, the language of the soul. And people will channel their own light language. It's not a singular language or a singular dialect. It can come in vocalizations. It can come in hand movements, as it often does for me. But other people express it through dance, through poetry or music or art. You could say that when you are in flow creatively, that you are definitely channeling. And this just gives a different understanding of that. For me, my light language came when I started practicing Reiki in Instagram reels, just offering little things. And then I found, as I was like, well, why does Reiki always have to be to really relaxing music? Why don't I do Reiki to like Led Zeppelin? Why isn't anyone doing Reiki, to Fleetwood Mac or something really? Why can't it be fun? And so I started putting on, this more invigorating music, and my hands just started moving, and just thought it was Reiki. And then I started seeing more and more about light language and how other people were expressing it. And I went, oh, this is actually different from Reiki. This is something else. And for me, there is an intention behind it. Sometimes there is a direct translation, but more often it's a general healing and pure expression that's happening for me. It's so natural and easy, and it feels really good. And that was another experience where I just thought, I don't really know what I'm doing, but it just feels good and it's fun. And then the responses I was getting from people were so shocking and made me so grateful. And people really talking about how moved they were and that they, again, felt sensations in the body, and they were watching them over and over and over again. And so that now has become a part of my work. I do offer initiations to other people on my retreats. We did that in Mexico, so other people can be open to exploring their own frequency. It may look like symbols that people see in their minds or that they just doodle all the time. There's no right or wrong way to do it, but that has also been something unexpected that has been created as a result of this work that I've done for myself.
I love that you're finding your own way to do it, because as I speak with more people, my favorite part is finding ways in which we can do similar things in our own unique way. And sometimes that's met with a bit of resistance from traditionalists. But I find it to be refreshing that people make things their own, because we are all creators, and we need to, sometimes we can learn something in a very traditional way, and that creates it creates a nice base. It's a great foundation. But it's not that we're all meant to be the same, but it's like, okay, you have a great foundation. What does that inspire in you? What does that open up for you in another way that is, light languaging to Fleetwood Mac? I love it. Sounds great.
Yeah. I think that's something that's really important to me too. And acknowledging that we as a species are evolving so quickly. We are really on this accelerated path. And we see that with how much pressure we feel, how chaotic things feel. And when we look at those times in our own lives, those micro times of those, we go, oh, that has always led me to someplace else. It's forced me to learn something. I've been pressurized to grow in that way. And it's important to note that a lot of these techniques, modalities, when they were birthed, right? Like, we've evolved since then. So it's like any musician, you got to learn the basics, and then you take it wherever you want to take it. And so I also am really adamant about giving my clients and my community freedom to make it their own, because like you said, we are all so unique and we all have a different way to do it. And if a traditional way really resonates with someone, then great, absolutely. But if you are afraid to expand or grow, then that's where we want to look, because we are designed to grow. We are designed to change. We are designed to evolve. And anybody who's an entrepreneur knows you have to be willing to grow. And if you are also on a spiritual journey, then the understanding has to be that you're always going to continue to grow as well. So I couldn't agree with you more on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whenever you think you know, you don't.
Exactly right.
You don't. It's like, oh, I know. It's refreshed. It's like the page has refreshed and you start from zero and like, oh,
right.
Okay. And then you get to the place where you know and refresh again.
Yep.
It's like, that's how it is, right?
Yep.
So,
yep.
Can you describe your first retreat experience as a leader and what you learned from it?
Yes. My first one was in Sedona, which I wasn't really called to. I've done 2 retreats in Sedona, and both times they have not been my first choice. So Sedona keeps calling me, apparently. And I hosted that with 2 other facilitators, one who offered NLP. She also did some breath work, and another facilitator who was opening her business in aromatherapy. So she provided some class on aromatherapy and some things there. I learned about giving yourself time to market a retreat. We were a little rushed at the end. And so that was a really important thing. There were also a lot of things that went wrong when we got there. Our beautiful Airbnb was out of hot water. We didn't have hot water for the first day and a half. We had to like boil water on the grill outside for our first meal together. And so, but everybody was so wonderful about it. And I learned that when you get high frequency people in a high frequency place, doesn't matter what happens. It's like a wedding. You have to expect something's going to go wrong. But if your vision is clear, the overarching picture is going to be really beautiful. And that was a 5-day retreat. And that's when I really realized how fortunate I am to have attracted the community that I have. Really grounded, kind, open-hearted, curious people who've been through a lot and have made the choice to heal for themselves and their families and their own communities. And I learned how that was the beginning of a deeper relationship I now have with the land and communion with the land and honoring that for myself and how really special that is. And I also logistically learned if something is not up to your standards, you have to say something about it. This luxury Airbnb we had booked was not cleaned satisfactorily, and we ended up getting some money back for it. So on a very logistical level, that was good for me. Stepping into spiritual leadership and expanding, like you have to, it's business, and you have to be able to communicate what your expectations are and stand up for yourself in that way. So, but that's really where I got the taste of what was possible. And I was so excited to explore what else wanted to come through me. And also I learned that there was something more than me that was planning these retreats. And this is what I've seen over and over again. Like I get an idea and I start putting things together and I start working on things, but I do feel supported. And even if it's stressful, right, which planning retreats is a very big deal. There's a lot of moving parts but I have the intention and I am just an instrument. If I just let this process flow through me, that something bigger than me is being created. And that's helped me to trust this process and to trust my role in this, and to really anchor in that this is an important part of my work, that I have the abilities that allow me to hold space in this way and be in those high energy experiences for people and be there for them and whatever they're experiencing. And that they are really important. I hope everybody gets to do at least one, whatever kind of retreat you want to do. I hope everybody gets to do at least one in their life. But whenever people come to my retreats, I say, welcome to the only way you're ever going to want to travel ever again. And at the end of the retreat, everybody goes, I don't know how I'm going to travel any other way. And I go, yeah, I know, because it's great to be pampered, to be taken care of. Like we want to believe that we are taken care of all the time, to know that your soul community is out there along with all of these other adventures that we have both internally and externally. So the first one, yeah, I learned a lot, both spiritually and in the 3D around the process of planning retreats. But it really motivated me to invest in that as an arm of my business.
Okay. So I'll give you a choice for this last question. You can either give one piece of advice that you could go back and give yourself at that first retreat, or send a message out to the retreat community. And if you want to do a twofer, that's fine.
I think I'll do a twofer because I think the first one's going to be really short. Thank you for the option. I think I would just tell myself to keep breathing and just say, it's going to be great. No matter what happens, no matter how many people come, it's going to be great. And the first time you do anything, you're going to learn. It's never going to be perfect, right? And so I would take it a little bit easier on myself in the process, in the unfolding of it. And to the retreat community, I would say thank you. Thank you. It is not the easiest business to be investing in, your time, your resources, your attention, but it's really, really, really important. And it's really important that all entrepreneurs have community. And I think especially people who are hosting retreats. And whether you're looking for an assistant or a collaborator or a co-facilitator or just someone to bounce ideas off of, if you don't have that now, I'm just going to envision that and hope and bless everyone listening that they find that, because networking is the tried and true way to grow a business, no matter what business you're in. And we need support, and we need a lot of support, because if you are holding space for other people, whether that's an adventure retreat, a writing retreat, a spiritual retreat, a plant medicine retreat, whatever it is, like, you also need support. So I would just really encourage people to continue to build their community, even if they're like, yeah, I got some good friends, I feel good. It's like, well, get more, right? Get more. Yeah. Like, let's make this network as big as possible so we can continue to offer these healing and inspiring experiences for the people who need them the most.
Yes. Yeah. That was so good. Break the bubble. Yes. Break through the bubble.
Yes. Yes. Very much. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Faith. Thank you for being here and being so amazing.
Thank you for this platform and thank you for being so amazing. You're helping a lot of people, and it's important work that you're doing. And I can't wait to meet you in person one day.
I know. Ireland, Fairyland.
We're going to do it.
All right.
Done.